King Charles ruled with absolute power. He believed that a strong leader should never bow to anyone. "The weak serve, the strong rule," he would say, watching his subjects bow before him. But in the hearts of the people, fear reigned. Servants trembled when speaking to him. Advisors flattered him out of self-interest. The poor were merely invisible shadows in his kingdom. To Charles, humility was just another name for weakness. Until one night, a plague swept through his lands. Crops rotted, hunger spread, and despair took hold of the people. "Your Majesty, the people cry for help," pleaded an advisor. "And since when am I responsible for the weak?" Charles frowned. "They must learn to fend for themselves. Only the worthy survive." Days passed, and the unrest grew like a silent storm. Then, in the dead of night, the unthinkable happened. The palace was invaded. They were not trained warriors, but desperate citizens. The king tried to resist, but was betrayed by his own guards. His crown was torn from his head, his golden robes stripped away, and, for the first time in his life, he was treated like an ordinary man. Charles was banished. Now, without wealth or an army, he wandered aimlessly. His stomach growled, his feet ached, and the once avoiding gazes now ignored him completely. He begged for food, but no hand was extended to help him, until he met an old man sitting by the roadside, dressed in tattered clothes, but with a calm gaze. "Life has been hard on you, my friend," said the old man. He handed Charles a piece of bread. Charles hesitated. He, a king, reduced to the charity of a beggar? "I am not your friend," the old man smiled. "Then would you rather die of pride? What a noble choice." Charles took the bread and ate in silence. For the first time, he tasted true hunger. Days passed, and the old man led him to a small village where he cared for the sick and fed orphans. Charles watched as he shared the little he had, helping the weak without expecting anything in return. One night, intrigued, Charles asked, "You live in poverty, with no gold, no power. What do you gain from helping these people?" The old man looked at him as if he had been expecting this question. "Tell me, dethroned king, what did you gain when you had everything?" Charles remained silent. For the first time, he had no answer. The next day, he decided to help. His calloused hands carried buckets of water. His bare feet walked to fetch food. He learned to bow, to listen, to serve. Then he realized, the more he emptied himself, the more God filled him. One night, beside the old man, he asked, "Who are you?" The old man smiled. "Just a servant." "But why? Why choose this life?" The old man fixed his eyes on him. "Because God exalts the humble, and what he gives to the humble, the world can never take away." That night, a fire broke out in the village. Charles, seeing the chaos, felt the instinct to flee, but something inside him stopped him. "If I am to be a true leader, I cannot abandon these people," he murmured to himself. The old man appeared beside him and gave him a firm look. "This is your final test, Charles. Will you remain the man who only thinks of himself, or will you become someone worthy of being followed?" Without hesitation, Charles ran into the fire, helping children escape the houses. He carried buckets of water, breaking down doors to free those trapped in the flames. He felt the heat searing his skin, the smoke choking his lungs, but he did not stop. As he saved the last children, a burning beam collapsed, blocking his way out. Charles tried to escape, but he was trapped. The old man, without hesitation, ran to help him, removing the debris with his bare hands. When he finally freed Charles, his eyes closed. He smiled faintly. Collapsed on the ground, the old man looked at Charles one last time and said, "Tonight, you were not a king. You were a servant, and that is why you will one day be a true king." And with one final breath, he was gone. Tears streamed down Charles's face, but there was no time to mourn. Now, more than ever, he knew he had to honor the sacrifice of the one who had taught him to be more than a king. Charles, breathless, fell to his knees. For the first time, he understood that true leadership was not about power, but about sacrifice. That same night, messengers arrived in the village. The new king, who had taken Charles's throne, ruled with cruelty. The people clamored for their old king, not the tyrant he had once been, but the man he had become. Charles returned, but this time not as a tyrant. Dressed in simple clothes, he walked among the people, not as a sovereign, but as a servant. And when he reclaimed the throne, his first decree was simple: whoever wishes to govern must first learn to serve. If you found this video meaningful, be sure to like, subscribe, and let us know your thoughts about the story in the comments. We'd love to hear from you.